Hello, everybody, and welcome to the May 2nd Product Analytics Sync. I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we can go over the build board. Cool. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. And let's get into the open issues. So we've got a lot here. We'll just go through the ones that are assigned. Product Analytics Designer outputs incorrect visualization definition. Rob, is this one actively being worked on, or should we?
It's not actively being worked on. No, okay. It's sort of something that just needs to be checked when we're doing the save MR work to see if it is actually a problem or not.
Got it. Cool. Got the planning issue, and we've got some documentation updates, but Lauren is not here, I don't believe. So I think we can just go ahead and get onto the workflow issues. So we have a issue in design. Kevin's just returned, so hopefully we can get some progress there. And then the live cluster is kind of on hold right now. Cube.js is not running in production mode, and so there's a little bit more we need to do there to kind of get that ready. So I've kind of put that on hold for now, unless we're actually a little bit further along with the snowplow switchover issues, which I don't believe are there. That's still in progress. So that's the current status of the cluster update. Elwin has been working on adding instrumentation details to general settings, or at least been refining it, but we can check in on that async. This one's not really actually ready for development because it's blocked by the cluster update, but yeah, I'll update that issue and move that back. But we've got fetching dashboard configurations from the backend, which hasn't been started yet from Jan, and he's out. So we'll just keep going. Workflow in dev, tracking usage of product analytics, weekly active users, and projects emitting data. Max, anything to report here?
Yeah, I've sort of rewritten the implementation plan after discussions with James and Basti. We're going to focus on Redis counters rather than database counting, which is fine. So I've just sort of started work on that today as a way to ease myself back in to remember what it is that I do for a job.
Awesome. Cool. And then we've got improving management of secrets within the stack. Rob, anything to mention here?
Hard pivot on this, because I wasn't in this last one, was in the APAC time. So there's a hard pivot on this where we were originally using a secrets library, but Dennis found out that Infra now has a HashiCorp vault set up for GitLab. So we'd much rather make use of the existing infrastructure if we can. And it's also tied into Okta, so we can provide team member access and all that sort of stuff securely. So I'm pivoting on that. I've got an MR out to get our group access. I've got I've started working on an MR to add that to the infrastructure related repo. Had some conversations with Infra when I was last in on Friday around that. So I've got progress forward, and I'm working on the MR to make that conversion. So it's in progress.
Awesome.
Slow progress, but progress.
Progress nonetheless. We've got putting an add dashboard button to the analytics listing page, which is effectively bringing in the dashboard designer experience from Jan, but he's out. So let's continue onwards. We've got updating the product analytics backend for snowplow compatibility. Alan, anything to update us on here?
I've got a draft MR for that. I was waiting for the Max's MR and my BYOC MR to get merged, and now they are merged. So I'll be moving that forward.
Awesome. Cool. And Halil, you've got improving the values YAML usage by pulling out environment-specific variables out of the deployment YAMLs.
Yeah, it's being in progress. I think I'll probably finish it like tomorrow. I may need to like wait until other MRs to be merged because like deployment file has changed now. But I think tomorrow it will be like probably ready. Yeah.
Cool. And then you've also got the next one in review here for improving deployment of persistent volume claims using stateful sets.
Yeah, so when I started working on it, the idea was that we could, like, because the PVCs were bound, that's why it was giving an error when we roll update. So that issue is fixed, but it's under review. It's in the second review, so it should be fixed soon. But then we noticed another issue while working on it, which means like to increase the replicas of the stateful sets. But that fun, I don't think we will be handling in this issue. We have another issue. It's better to fix it because it's not like just changing replicas. It seems like we might need to investigate the ClickHouse operator or the GitLab ClickHouse operator, one of them.
Cool. Sounds good. And then Rob, we've got the fixed transitioning pods and persistence volume claims, which I think is kind of superseded by Halil's issue,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm just testing Halil's issue right now for a final, like hard manually testing everything. And I get a strong feeling that I can actually close my issue in favor of his in its entirety. So I'm just checking that as well. And if so, I will close it out.
Awesome. Cool. And then Ellen's got a couple of issues here for updating the onboarding dashboard flow to reflect the snowplow initialization process, and as well as updating the instrumentation SDK example code. Hopefully that will be also to make it snowplow compatible, but yeah, we can check in on that. Owen's also working on deep link URLs as presented as top pages in the behavior dashboards, kind of just refining a little bit of our dashboard behaviors there. And then I've got an issue here to improve credential usage in ClickHouse and Cube, which that merge request is in review. So hopefully it kind of gets us to the point where we can start to actually put this into the secrets work that Rob is working on as well. But just improvements across the board for our chart. Cool. Moving on to verification now, and you've got these two issues. Anything you wanted to call out here?
I'm just looking for the unmute button.
No worries.
Yeah, both of those are just waiting behind the snowplow flag. So whenever we are ready to enable that and verify in production, then we can close this out.
Sounds good. I think we've got one remaining front end issue as far as actually retrieving those snowplow specific dashboards, and then we should be able to actually start verifying all of this. If we're at that point, then I'll go ahead and update the clusters, barring the Cube.js production deployment. Cool. Then looking at our bookmark here, I think our last one was presenting call to actions to configure dashboards. So we've got quite a few issues since then. It's not here, but we have removed the product analytics specific dashboard listing. Everything points to the shared dashboard now, so that's great. Max, we've got the initialization working with the snowplow configurator service. Anything you wanted to call out here?
I don't even remember what I did for that, but I'm going to say it's working and complete because I've marked it as so. I'll need to check it again because I've not looked at that since I've been back.
Yeah, this is basically just when you go to the manual kind of initialization process, not connected to the onboarding flow.
Yes,
basically just making sure that the ClickHouse database and the tables are set up. It's now the table is set up for the project. So,
yes, thank you, Dennis.
Yes, no worries. It's PTO season. Determining where to put the instrumentation details after sharing the dashboard listing. Kevin, I'm not sure if you're on the call, but we're going to put the instrumentation details in the settings general page for now. There was a discussion about kind of the amount of information we're adding there already, and whether or not it makes sense to set up a configuration screen, but that resolved with, it at least doesn't block us from onboarding customers. So we'll just continue to move forward with that. Lorena's documented available existing visualization options. So I think we can just go ahead there. We've made some improvements in terms of indicating to the user that they're in edit mode. So updating the handles and other indicators there. Halil, you've got an issue for dropping the ClickHouse connection string column. Anything you wanted to call out here?
Not just one thing maybe is that I created a follow-up ticket for the next 16.1 milestone, so that we need to remove the ignore rule, but the column is dropped already. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Max is back from PTO, so welcome back. And you've got the updating audience and behavior dashboards to call from snowplow specific cube schemas. Is there anything worth calling out?
I mean, this was sort of halfway done when I left, and then Alan and Halil finished that off for me, and it's been merged. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Awesome. And I think that wraps up the build board, unless there's anything anyone else would like to call out. All right, then it's on to James for OKRs.
Hey, everybody. Q2 for the fiscal year kicked off officially yesterday. So we do have on the product side of the house, one key result that's tied to the continue to beat GitHub objective, I think is what it's called. I probably named it the wrong thing. But it's specifically to get to beta during Q2. So that's going to be kind of the overriding objective for us, is to continue to validate through the first users, which we have the first customer who's ready to go as soon as the stack is ready to onboard them, which is super exciting. And then 6 weeks after that, we've kind of time bound it. Or once we get feedback from 5 users, whichever comes first, we'll be moving into our beta phase. From a functionality perspective, it's very much the same. We're just hoping to validate from users that they're getting value out of the existing functionality, or what other problems they would like to solve with product analytics, and validate the stack is ready to go. So you can click through to both the individual KR and the broader list from the product side. And Dennis, you and I had talked, I think, briefly in an issue. Is there something coming from the engineering side for product analytics as well, or product intelligence, that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to warrant an OKR, but I'm trying to kind of formulate the plan for this, but there's a lot of scaling we need to do and requirements that are coming out of my findings from like getting Cube to run in production mode and ClickHouse and separating that out. So overall, we want to start to have an actual, and I think our term for it at GitLab is an architectural blueprint in terms of what we're going to need to actually be able to effectively run this in an official beta phase. And I'll start to, was about to drop a link in the group channel to kind of clue people in on the requirements for Cube, but this may inform our, basically we want to achieve a stable architecture as far as like our goals for this quarter to help us get to beta. But as you'll see soon, this may change in terms of how we package this for customers that want to self-manage their own infrastructure for this. But right now we're just concerned about making sure we can onboard people for SaaS, and then we'll provide the options later on for self-managed customers.
I know the ClickHouse working group is doing a lot of great work, and it looked like there was some suggestion last week to use smaller instance sizes for ClickHouse, which might make it a little bit easier for smaller customers to stand up and run a product analytics stack, which theoretically could help us in the long term with more people being able to use it with self-managed. But we still want to explore the option of providing it as a managed service, even for self-managed folks.
Yeah, that was more around, and I'm actually leading that investigation as far as I'm trying to see, how little of a ClickHouse instance we can use, just in terms of basically what is the minimum amount of resources required to be able to run the analytics stack. And part of that is, of course, ClickHouse. And so part of that testing is going to be, if we just limit ClickHouse to 4 gigs of memory, for example, how much data can we support? How much can we query? That gets a little bit more complicated, especially as I'm discovering with Cube, because it's got its own, it can run in a distributed nature, but it has its own requirements for being able to scan n number of rows. So all that to say is that hopefully can figure out a way to kind of have a minimal setup for self-managed customers. But at the same time, if they're wanting to scale this, it might require quite a bit of resources on their end, but we'll try to figure out what's the MVC for them.
Not running on a Raspberry Pi, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm about to drop a link to Cube's documentation. It's got a whole production architecture, which is good, but its baseline setup is like asking for 4 to 8 CPUs and 8 gigabytes of memory. But we've been able to run everything so far with minimal requirements. So it's just kind of outlining what can be achieved with minimal specs, and then what you should be running it at. But it's part of the process of us figuring it out. So yeah.
Well, that's probably given folks plenty of time to click through and read if they were ignoring our conversation. So any questions back to the group for what's in the KR? And if you haven't had a chance to read it, feel free to async, and I'll answer questions either in the document, in an issue, or in Slack. Cool. Last thing that I'll add, which I didn't add to the agenda, was the weekly update that I put out last week. I'm planning on doing every week for us in product analytics, basically what's our weekly active user count, what did we learn from users last week, and have that shift roadmap for us. If I could get thumbs up on those to say, hey, I'm looking at it and I'm finding it valuable, it'll be great. If we get a couple of weeks of no thumbs, then I can discontinue that if we're not finding value in it. And it can be more of a self-serve than me pushing it into the channel. That data should always be available somewhere.
I definitely really appreciated it as I was looking back through after I returned. Yeah, please continue.
Will do.
All right, then we're at the end of the agenda, unless there's anyone, anything we'd like to show and tell or anything like that. All right, then 14 minutes back. Good to see everyone and have a good rest of your Tuesday.